Millionaire Ethan Hale never expected a quiet, elementary teacher to change everything. One cold afternoon, his little boy, Noah, was caught in a moment of danger no amount of wealth could stop. Before anyone reacted, Sarah Miller stepped in with a courage that left everyone stunned. Even the CEO himself froze, unable to understand why a teacher would risk so much for a child who wasn't hers. But when Ethan demanded answers, Sarah's trembling voice hinted at a hidden truth connected to Noah's past, a truth she had guarded for years. And in that instant, everything shifted. Ethan Hale was known everywhere as a powerful millionaire CEO, a man who built an empire from the ground up. People imagined his life was perfect: the mansion, the cars, the private chef, the polished reputation. But behind the silent walls of his mansion in Austin, Texas, lived a father who barely knew how to reach his own little boy. Noah was quiet, gentle, and often seen clutching a small, worn-out toy that once belonged to his mother. She had been gone for years, and Ethan never truly healed from that loss. His heart had turned into stone, and his days were only filled with meetings, numbers, and long drives in the back of black SUVs. Noah's world was much smaller. He spent his days in a bright elementary classroom, decorated with little hand-drawn stars. And the one person who made him feel safe was his teacher, Sarah Miller. She was soft-spoken, always wearing simple clothes and carrying stacks of worksheets she paid for herself. She noticed every little thing Noah did: the way he hesitated before answering a question, the way he waited for all the other kids to leave before packing his bag, the way he pulled his sleeves over his hands when he felt nervous. Sarah didn't push, didn't question. She simply stayed near, offering a quiet presence that meant more than words. The contrast between Ethan's life and Sarah's was huge. While Ethan's mansion stood on a hill with fountains, heated floors, and marble halls, Sarah rented a tiny apartment above a bakery that smelled like warm bread every morning. She took the bus to school and carried her lunch in a faded tote bag. But she carried something else too, a kind of kindness that didn't fade, no matter how hard her own life had been. Ethan barely noticed her at first. To him, Sarah was just another teacher sending emails about Noah's behavior or late assignments. He didn't have time for school complications. His company was preparing a deal with a billionaire investor, and every hour of his time was booked. Yet the more Noah struggled, the more Sarah appeared in Ethan's life. Gentle reminders, quiet suggestions, notes about Noah's loneliness. Ethan found himself irritated, but also strangely drawn to the way she spoke about his son, as if she saw something he didn't. One evening during a routine parent meeting, Ethan finally looked into Sarah's eyes long enough to see something he had missed, a sadness tucked beneath her calm smile. It wasn't ordinary sadness. It was the kind that comes from years of carrying pain alone. Ethan didn't know it yet, but Sarah's past was tied far closer to Noah than he could ever imagine. When Ethan asked why she was so protective of his boy, Sarah hesitated. Her hands trembled, her eyes lowered to the floor. "Because Noah reminds me of someone," she whispered. Ethan's chest tightened. "Who?" Sarah's voice shook as she finally answered. "Someone I once failed." And just like that, the ground beneath Ethan's world began to shift. The next morning arrived with a sharp wind sweeping through the school courtyard. Ethan Hale rarely came in person, but today he stepped out of his sleek black SUV with a tension that everyone could feel. Parents whispered, staff straightened up. It wasn't every day a millionaire CEO marched through the hallways of a public elementary school. He wasn't here for a routine meeting. He was here because Sarah's final words, "Someone I once failed," refused to leave his mind. When Ethan reached Noah's classroom, he didn't wait for permission. He pushed the door open. Little heads snapped up, startled. Sarah stood by the reading corner, helping Noah with a simple puzzle. Her voice was steady, but Ethan noticed the faint tremor in her hands. "We need to talk," Ethan said, his tone clipped. Sarah rose slowly. "Not here. The children." But Noah had already sensed the tension. His small hands clutched the puzzle pieces as he stared at his father with wide, frightened eyes. Ethan softened for a brief second. "Noah, stay with Mrs. Miller. I'll be right outside." Noah didn't say a word. He simply pressed himself closer to Sarah's side, as if she were the only anchor he trusted. The sight hit Ethan harder than he expected, scraping something raw inside him. Outside the classroom, the hallway felt colder. Ethan folded his arms. "You left me with a very heavy statement yesterday. You said you failed someone. I need to know what that means. What are you hiding from me?" Sarah stayed completely still. "It isn't something I can explain quickly. I don't want Noah to go through what that child went through." "That child?" Ethan repeated, frustration rising. "Why compare Noah to someone I don't even know? Why act like you're the only one who understands him?" Sarah didn't flinch. "Because you don't see what he's carrying." Ethan bristled. "I give him everything, except what he needs." Her voice was soft, but the impact was sharp. For a moment, neither spoke. The hallway buzzed faintly with distant chatter, but between them hung a thick silence. Finally, Ethan exhaled shakily. "Then tell me, what is he carrying?" Before Sarah could answer, a sharp cry erupted from inside the classroom. Both of them rushed in. Noah was standing at the center of the room, breathing fast, hands shaking uncontrollably. One of the older boys from another class, a kid who always caused trouble during recess, had barged in and grabbed Noah's puzzle, mocking him for being weird and too quiet. Noah flinched, clutching his sleeves over his hands, just like Sarah had noticed so many times before. Ethan's temper surged instantly. "Hey, step away from him." The boy backed up, startled, but Noah wasn't calming down. His breaths came too fast, eyes filling with panic. Before Ethan could reach him, Sarah moved. She knelt beside Noah, placed a firm but gentle hand over his trembling ones, and whispered, "You're safe. Breathe with me." She inhaled slowly. Noah tried to follow. She whispered again, slower, steadier. Within seconds, the panic started to fade. Everyone froze. Even Ethan, even the troublemaking boy. No one had ever seen Noah calm down that quickly. Not with therapists, not with specialists, not with anyone. When Noah finally managed a weak, shaky breath, Sarah held his hand like it was the most fragile thing in the world. Ethan watched, stunned. It wasn't just comfort, it was instinct, almost as if she had done this exact thing with another child. A memory, a trauma, a connection. Ethan didn't know, but the truth hovered in Sarah's eyes. That was when a new voice entered the room, sharp, annoyed, and unmistakable. "Ethan, what on earth is happening?" Claire Reed walked in, heels clicking, expression tight. Noah immediately stiffened again. Sarah rose, positioning herself protectively between Noah and Claire, a move so unexpected that even Claire blinked in shock. Ethan stared at Sarah. "Why do you keep doing that? Why protect him from people you barely know?" Sarah swallowed hard. "Because Noah isn't just acting this way. Something happened. Something you were never told." Ethan's heart dropped. "What do you mean?" Sarah's voice dipped to a trembling, fragile edge. "There's a piece of his past you don't know, a truth someone hid from you." Ethan felt the world shift again. And Sarah finally said, barely above a whisper, "I know who hid it." Ethan felt the words hit him like a cold wave. "You know who hid it?" he repeated, barely steady. Sarah nodded once, her expression tightening. Claire folded her arms, irritation simmering beneath her calm exterior. "This is ridiculous," Claire said sharply. "Ethan, she's a school teacher. Don't let her fill your head with stories." But Sarah didn't back down. Her voice stayed soft but unshakably firm. "I'm not telling stories. I'm telling you what Noah has been living with." Ethan turned to her fully, ignoring Claire. "Start talking." Sarah hesitated, glancing at Noah, who sat quietly at his desk, rolling the puzzle pieces between his fingers. "Not here. He shouldn't hear this." Reluctantly, Ethan agreed. The three of them stepped outside into the breezeway, the wind cutting through the silence. Sarah took a breath. Noah isn't just anxious. He's reacting to trauma. Trauma he remembers, even if he can't explain it. Ethan's jaw tightened. Trauma from what? His mother's passing? Sarah's eyes darkened. No, Ethan. Something else. Something that happened after she passed. Claire's expression shifted instantly. Not confused, but defensive. Ethan didn't miss it. Sarah noticed too. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? She said quietly. Claire's face hardened. Don't twist this. I did what I had to. What did you do? Ethan demanded. Claire sighed sharply, looking away. Ethan, Noah was struggling. You were drowning in grief. You weren't fit to handle him back then. I asked the nanny to step in more. I asked her to handle the difficult moments. He was fine. Kids forget. Sarah shook her head. He didn't forget. And the nanny didn't just step in. She left him alone in situations he couldn't handle. Ethan felt his stomach drop. What situations? Sarah swallowed. Panic attacks, night terrors, moments where he begged for comfort. She ignored him, sometimes for hours. Ethan staggered back as if the ground had shifted. He remembered that nanny, polished, professional, highly recommended by Claire. He had trusted her during the darkest days of his life. Why didn't anyone tell me? He whispered. Because, Sarah said softly, they thought you were too broken to help. A sharp silence fell. Ethan looked shattered, and Claire flinched at the sight, but her voice stayed stiff. You were barely functioning, Ethan. I was trying to protect both of you. But Sarah shook her head. You protected the wrong person, and Noah suffered for it. Ethan covered his face with his hands. The thought of his little boy crying alone while he drowned in his own grief was almost unbearable. Sarah continued, more gently now. That's why he reacts the way he does, why he trusts slowly, why he clings to small routines. He's still trying to survive pain he doesn't have words for. Ethan lowered his hands, eyes red. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because, Sarah admitted, I didn't have proof, and because I knew you weren't ready to hear it. Claire stepped forward, voice tense. Ethan, she is overstepping. You cannot rely on her. But Ethan interrupted her with a raised hand. I need the truth, all of it. Sarah reached into her tote bag and pulled out a folded piece of paper, faded, crumpled, and worn at the edges. Ethan stared at it. What is that? Sarah's voice trembled. A letter Noah wrote years ago, before he learned how to spell properly, before he stopped trying. Claire's face went pale. Ethan slowly reached for it, and before he even opened it, Sarah whispered, This letter changes everything. Ethan unfolded the letter with unsteady hands. The handwriting was uneven, the letters backward, the strokes heavy as if written through tears. It read, Dad, please come back. I scared. I cry. Nanny not come. I wait. Please don't go. The paper slipped from Ethan's fingers. No sound left him, yet his heartbreak filled the hallway like thunder. He pressed his fist to his mouth, trying to breathe, but the truth tore through him with a force he had never felt, not even when he lost his wife. Claire stepped back as if struck. Ethan, I didn't know he wrote that. But Ethan didn't even look at her. His voice cracked. My son begged for me, and I wasn't there. Sarah approached gently, but Ethan spoke first, guilt shaking every word. All the wealth, all the meetings, I should have seen him, I should have known. A sudden shout cut through the moment. Noah ran outside! A teacher rushed toward them, breathless. Ethan's heart stopped. What do you mean he ran outside? Where? The playground, then toward the parking lot. I think he overheard you talking. Ethan didn't wait. He sprinted down the hall, Sarah close behind, Claire trailing with a rising panic. Outside, the wind whipped across the empty playground. Noah stood at the far edge, small and shaking, staring at the fence as if trying to decide whether to run or hide. His little hands were pressed against his ears, shoulders trembling. Noah! Ethan called, but the boy didn't turn. He whispered to himself, voice quivering, caught between fear and memory. I don't want to be alone again. I don't want to be alone. Ethan's chest tore open. He stepped forward, then froze. Noah flinched at the sound of gravel under Ethan's shoes and took a step back, closer to the slope that dropped toward the parking lot below. "Stop," Sarah whispered, pulling Ethan's arm. "He's terrified. Let me try." Ethan nodded, breath shaking. Sarah slowly stepped toward Noah, speaking in that steady, warm voice he knew so well. "Noah, sweetheart, breathe with me. You're not alone. We're right here." But Noah's eyes were full of something raw, something that came from the fear of being abandoned again. "Are you going to leave me too?" he whispered. The words sliced straight through Ethan. Sarah reached out her hand, tears gathering. "No, none of us are leaving you." Noah hesitated, one step forward, then one step back, and the small piece of ground under his heel began to crumble. Ethan's breath caught. Sarah gasped. Noah slipped, and the world seemed to stop in its tracks. Ethan lunged forward before thought could even form. His hand caught Noah's wrist just as the boy's foot slipped over the edge. The force nearly pulled him down with him, but he held tight, muscles burning, terror ripping through him. "I've got you," Ethan shouted, cracking. "I'm not letting go, ever." Noah's wide eyes, panicked eyes, met his father's trembling ones. For the first time, Ethan wasn't the distant CEO or the busy millionaire. He was a father fighting with everything he had. Sarah grabbed Ethan's arm from behind, anchoring him. Together, they pulled Noah back onto steady ground. The moment Noah's feet touched the grass, he collapsed into Ethan's chest, sobbing into his father's shirt. "Please don't leave me again," Noah cried. His voice was brittle, broken, the same pain that filled the letter now spilling into the open. Ethan held him so tightly it hurt. "I'm here. I'm right here, Noah, and I promise you I will never walk away again." His words weren't loud, they were trembling, desperate, and real. Behind them, Claire stood frozen, guilt and shock twisting across her face. She had never seen Ethan like this, stripped of pride, stripped of power, stripped of anything but raw love. Sarah knelt beside them. "Noah, sweetheart, you're safe. You're not going anywhere, and neither is your dad." Ethan looked at Sarah with new eyes, eyes full of gratitude and something deeper. "You saved him, again." His voice was hoarse. "And you saved me too." Sarah shook her head. "No, he just needed someone to hear him." "No," Ethan insisted gently. "He needed kindness, the kind you gave him when I didn't even realize he was breaking." For a moment, the three of them stayed together in a fragile, heart-touching silence, the kind that felt life-changing. Claire stepped forward, voice shaking. "Ethan, I never meant—" But Ethan cut her off, not with anger, but with something stronger. "I'm going to do right by my son now, and that starts with knowing everything." Sarah pulled in a breath, steadying herself. "Then you're ready to hear the rest." Ethan nodded. "What else is there?" Sarah reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small, worn photograph, something she had kept hidden for years. She held it out to him with trembling fingers. "Ethan, this is the person Noah remembers, and the reason his past isn't what you think." Ethan stared at the photograph, color draining from his face, and Sarah whispered, "This photograph changes everything." Ethan stared at the photograph, his breath tightening as the truth settled over him. It wasn't a stranger's face. It was the nanny, the one he had trusted during the darkest months of his life. But the shock wasn't just her image. It was the scene behind her in the photo, a daycare room he had never seen, a place he never approved, a place Noah had clearly been left in for long hours without comfort. Sarah spoke softly. "I found this years ago when Noah had a panic episode in class. It slipped out of his backpack. He kept it because he was trying to make sense of why he felt unsafe." Ethan looked down at Noah, now sitting quietly between them. The boy's small fingers twisted around the fabric of his dad's sleeve, holding on with a trembling trust. "I should have known," Ethan whispered. "I should have protected you." Noah looked up. "You didn't know, Dad." His small voice held no anger, only sadness and something far deeper. Forgiveness. Claire lowered her eyes. "Ethan, I didn't know she was treating him that way. I swear I didn't."
But her voice wavered, her guilt undeniable. Ethan gently pulled Noah into his arms. "No more distance," he murmured. "Not ever." Sarah watched the two of them with a soft, emotional ache in her chest. She had seen children break from things adults never understood, but seeing a father finally reach for a child, truly reach, felt powerful, soul-stirring. Ethan turned to her. "I owe you more than I can ever repay." "You don't owe me anything. Noah just needed someone to stay when everything felt too heavy. That's all." Ethan shook his head. "No. You stayed when I didn't even realize I was losing him." The weight of those words settled gently between them. Days turned into weeks. Ethan took time away from his company, handing responsibilities temporarily to trusted partners. He traded boardrooms for school hallways, business calls for puzzle pieces at the kitchen table. He started learning Noah's rhythms, what frightened him, what calmed him, what made him laugh. Little moments, simple routines became the foundation of something new. Sarah visited occasionally to support them both, sometimes with school updates, sometimes with nothing more than a warm smile and gentle advice. Her presence remained steady, not intrusive, not distant, but exactly where Noah needed it. Claire stepped back, giving father and son room to heal. She apologized sincerely to Noah, who nodded in quiet acceptance, but stayed close to his dad. In time, she found a way to support their rebuilding instead of controlling it. Months later, on a cool spring evening, Ethan hosted a small dinner, just Noah and Sarah. No fancy chefs, no polished menus, just simple food he burned twice before getting it right, and laughter filling the corners of the once silent mansion.
After dinner, Noah tugged at Ethan's sleeve. "Dad, can we show Miss Miller the special box?" Ethan smiled. "Of course." Noah ran to the living room and returned with an old wooden box, the one holding his mother's keepsakes. Inside were letters, a small locket, and now the worn, crumpled letter Sarah had returned to Ethan. But the most important piece was a tiny puzzle piece Noah placed on top. "That's from the day Miss Miller helped me breathe," Noah said shyly. "I want to keep it forever." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Ethan whispered, "It's a reminder of kindness, the kind that saved us." Noah leaned into his father. "We're a team now, right?" Ethan kissed his son's hair. "A team forever." And as the evening settled into quiet warmth, the mansion no longer felt cold. It felt like a home, built not by wealth, but a little boy's courage, a teacher's unwavering kindness, and a father finally choosing love over everything.